What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another live stream of all Steelers talk. I'm Noah Strackmine, joined with boots on the ground down in Mobile, Alabama at the 2024 Senior Bowl. My boy, Nick Martin. We're recapping day 2, Pittsburgh Steelers, all of the stars and some maybe new emerging guys that caught the eye of Nick while he was down there in Mobile, Alabama, day 2, plus bunch of interviews that we're going to dive into, so on and so forth. Some new interest. We'll dive into it all. Make sure to toss us your questions so that we can answer as many as we can. As long as we stay on here, we'll be about a half hour or so going through everything that's happened in day 2 down in Mobile, Alabama. How's your day? You're looking less sunburned, but maybe that's just the fact that it's a little darker out today and I can't see how red you are.
Yeah, no, the sunburn's subsiding a little bit, but it was interesting because I kind of started turning into Bill Belichick, and I would put my hoodie up, and the sun was just beating down on my hoodie and my sweatpants. I was just like, God dang, man, I'm not making this mistake twice. I'm making sure I got the sunscreen going next time.
I feel like every year, last year when it was down there, I think it was Chris Halleck got roasted, and he's like, he's a little less hair on the top there, so he's rocking a hood or a hat every single day since. I think he's worn a hat every single day of his life since then. It just gets you. Every year, it gets you. You did go to I want to call it like a press conference, but it's more like a gathering, a media session with everybody in a ballroom. I don't know how to describe it, but that was today after practice. How was that? Was there good food?
So I don't even know if there was food from what I saw there.
Dude, there's always like last year. I think it was like lobster grits or something. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, they usually had stuff, but like I didn't notice it when I was there. Then again, I just rushed immediately into the room just trying to interview guys because that's just what I wanted to do.
That's
and
where
I was
you were
like,
focused.
yeah, food was the last thing on my mind, unfortunately.
Who'd you get? Any top tier interviews? Anybody that stood out today?
I think there were some really interesting ones that I got. Like, I would say my favorite was Javon Solomon, a pass rusher from Troy. Maybe not so much interest on the Steelers side, but I really got to dig his brain into his brain about how his pass rush plan works. Because when I watch his tape, he has one of the best pass rush plans in the class, and just how the difference between playing in a 4-eye and playing, a little more out towards the edge, and also just like how his film study like really shows with how his game works and why it might not be flashing so much in Senior Bowl practices because it's a different type of environment and he's not they're not studying film of the guys that are going into the Senior Bowl week. Like they're not trying to do that. They're trying to win off their own merits. And Solomon definitely has like good traits there, and he was a 16 sack guy this year. There were some really good things I was seeing from him. He's one of those guys who combines both speed to power, but also just the ability to win with finesse. And I really like seeing that, just getting some thoughtful answers. In terms of the Steelers side, Chris Abrams-Drain, cornerback from Missouri. It was really funny because I pretty much just asked every single player I knew. Like, I was like, I'm just going to ask him about Mike Tomlin because Mike Tomlin is talking to everyone down there. He's not. People will think so much into it. It's like, oh, well, Tomlin was talking with this guy. Oh, there's a picture of him talking with this guy. And I'm like, he's talking to literally everyone as far as I'm concerned. But it was funny because he goes up to Chris Abrams-Drain and he's talking about like how he wants him to match up with one. He's like, he's on the other team, coach, like Roman Wilson. He's like on the other team, and it's just kind of funny, seeing him like not be able to get that grudge match that those two wanted, because what they like to do is they like to call those guys out. They got Quinyon Mitchell versus Roman Wilson. Tomlin initiated that whole thing. He was like, I want those two going up against each other. You saw Roman Wilson kind of have a really nice move, had Quinyon stumbling a bit. And then the ball was like behind him and he caught it with one-handed. I was like, oh my God.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, especially over Mitchell, who has, I mean, if you've been watching Twitter at all, at least from an outsider's perspective, somebody who's still sitting in Pittsburgh, his name is literally everywhere. It is just, It is almost my entire timeline. I'm guessing he is the biggest star that's popping out down there through 2 days?
I would say, yeah, maybe there's one more contender. It would be on the defensive side of the ball. Defensive lineman Darius Robinson,
Oh,
who he really dominated day two. I don't think like he was destroying even Tyler Guyton off the edge. He was winning from the interior as well. His inside outside versatility makes you think he could be like one of those 5-3 tech guys who could fit in like not just a 3-4, but also a 4-3 attacking scheme. So
mhm.
similar to like what Pittsburgh looks for in their hybrid defensive ends, they ask them to do a lot of that stuff. There could be some interest there. I didn't get to talk to him specifically, but I could see them potentially wanting to look at a guy like that. I also think a guy with his traits in terms of length, power, and just pure explosiveness, that's the type of guy who's going to go higher than people will have him in like the day two side, and then probably what's going to end up happening is there's going to be round one buzz by the time the combine rolls around, and
That's
that's just
that
yeah.
reminds me of who's the dude from Notre Dame last year who was considered a day 2, worked his way up. He was a genius.
Um, I
Foskey? Was it Foskey?
I don't know if it was Foskey. Foskey definitely did like all right at the Senior Bowl, but there was a guy I know. I think I know it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah,
I
right. I
can't.
talked to him. I can't remember who it was because the Steelers didn't draft him. So at that, I don't even know who drafted him. At that point, it fell off. But I do
Yeah,
remember he was the guy last year who, by the end of it, everybody. I mean, outside of Carl's Brooks Green or whatever his name, that dude was a stud.
Keanu
Um,
Benton was a stud down there
Keanu
too.
Benton was a stud. Keanu Benton was a total stud. That's when I think the world started to really learn about who Keanu Benton could be. Shout out the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who else kind of stood out today? I saw a tweet about Spencer Rattler out there. Said maybe the second best. We talking maybe second best quarterback?
I thought so it was really interesting on how he's played through the
Yeah.
past 2 days. He's a guy who hasn't been afraid of the moment. And I think that's something you want to see with those quarterbacks. Bo Nix,
Yes.
for instance, he's been really checked down heavy. Michael Penix is still missing with his passes, even though he's more of a vertical guy. And, he's obviously a great leader and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff doesn't always reflect on the type of players they are, but I just think it's interesting. Rattler, I think, may have had the best first 2 days. Rattler had an interception in the first, the first day. But what I liked about it is he kept staying aggressive. He
Yeah.
kept trying to make plays, but he also wasn't, he wasn't being reckless with the ball either. And that's what I liked. He has a really nice layered throw on a corner route. He also had a really beautiful anticipation throw to Jaquan Jackson along the sideline. Um, I think it was. I don't even know if it was a comeback. It was like a leverage read. He threw it back shoulder, and then Jackson looks back, and the ball's right there. And it was a perfect throw. Rattler's definitely been having those type of. I thought he had a really good day too. It was
Yeah.
funny though, because like Carter Bradley of South Alabama maybe had the second best day two potentially, because
Is
like
he a quarterback? Is that a quarterback?
yeah, that's Gus Bradley's kid. It's really
Okay.
funny. It's really funny what's going down at the Senior Bowl, because the guys that you want to see them go off this week, they're not really putting it together. Like Pratt took a step back this week or this game or this day as compared to like day one. And Bo Nix, he can't keep his feet together, and it's really causing him to skip passes. It's something he's got to clean up. But Bradley is one of the more interesting guys because he coaches son, Gus Bradley's son, and he actually was a pretty decent recruit, if I remember correctly, Elite 11 guy, and he has some arm talent. Like he has
And
some
ended up
like
in South Alabama.
yeah, it's a weird story on that one. I definitely want to pick his brain a little bit on that. But
Yeah, yeah.
Bradley is interesting because he's got the arm strength. He can throw it on a line pretty well. He's got a bit of an elongated base at times, like his first step, so that can cause him to get a little erratic with his accuracy. But overall, like I think he's been pretty solid through the first 2 days, and it's actually kind of wild to think. But do I think it's gonna push him up this high? Probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that quarterbacks are not like performing all that well is not a great sign. And if anything, I would say the guy who has had the most improved stock from the Senior Bowl quarterbacks, Probably got to be JJ McCarthy because he's not even there.
Yeah, because he's not showing up. Yeah, because Michael Penix and Bo Nix are not having a day. That's crazy. But also, if you're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you're trying to bring the Pittsburgh Steelers into the realm of this, that is a bit concerning. You know, I even saw a tweet that you put out there about Michael Pratt nearly throwing an interception today. I don't know how his day was, but that's a name that those are the names that the farther back you go, you know what I mean? The Pittsburgh Steelers are not going to be a first round quarterback team. So you're looking round 2, round 3, Michael Penix, Michael Pratt, those types of guys. If they're not playing well, potentially Spencer Rattler wasn't even on my radar. That would be, I don't know how I feel. Like at one point in time, Spencer Rattler was potentially a first round pick, potentially the first quarterback taken in an NFL draft. Where he is now, I mean, look, I'm not against it. I think whatever, throw whatever spitball you can against the wall. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you got to be watching this going, nah, I'm not totally sold on these quarterbacks, which is not good. Could push a narrative like the Ryan Tannehill, could push a narrative like bring back Mason, or my favorite one, go get Justin Fields. That's my personal favorite. When you talk about South Alabama guys or guys that doesn't have it, reminds me of what's his name out of Chicago, Tyson Bagent, excuse me. Yeah. I remember talking smack on that kid last year with his world champion arm wrestling dad standing a foot and a half behind me and somebody going, yo, shut up. And I was like, sorry. I had no idea. Speaking of the Pittsburgh Steelers, what was Mike Tomlin doing besides talking to everybody out there and getting some hype going on? And I actually just saw, as you were talking, I saw the Roman Wilson catch, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, that was ridiculous. And Tomlin, I mean, he was just kind of everywhere, like in terms of what he was doing. Like he was talking to receivers, he was talking to corners, talking to O-line, D-line, he was talking to quarterbacks. Like he was really just all over. And I think a lot of people are just going to look too much into what he's doing and stuff like that. Yeah, this is a ridiculous play.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Roman Wilson's had a hell of a week, I would say. He's just been creating so much separation vertically and horizontally, and I think he's been catching the eye of Mike Tomlin. If I remember correctly, I caught a little bit of his interview. I think he had talked to Tomlin a few times. He'd met with the Steelers twice.
Yeah, he did. He said that the first time he was walking out as Tomlin was walking in or something, or Tomlin was walking out as he was walking in, something like that. I caught that one listening to it. But yeah, that's a name. Where is he going in the draft? If you to scout him right now, is second rounder?
I would say he's somewhere in that day 2 range. I mean, second round wouldn't be too big of a surprise. I think this type of environment benefits a receiver like him in terms of like, creating separation, those one-on-one drills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I definitely think like he's done well in team scrimmages, but I think, where he's really made his money is the one-on-ones. And those are wide receiver favored to begin with. And you kind of have to put as little stock into it as you can. But you watch his tape, he separates really well on Michigan. They like to spam over routes. It's JJ McCarthy's favorite route. It's Roman Wilson's favorite route because no one can freaking guard him on it. And when he just gets running horizontally, he's so hard to catch. Like he's got that pure speed. Like it wouldn't shock me if he's a 4.3 guy. I think he's around that type of range.
4.3 shoot his draft stock right up. You run a 4.3 at all, it doesn't matter who you are, and you're considered maybe a day 2, a third, fourth round pick, you're immediately a second round pick. Getting first round Kadarius Toney. It's Kadarius Toney. That's who it is. Let's answer some questions here. What about Joe Milton? You talked a little bit about Michael Pratt, but Joe Milton we did not talk about. How do you look today?
Joe Milton's interesting because he's been starting to take a lot, more of the checkdowns and stuff like that, but he's often late with his timing a lot of times. And I think that's something, there's a lot of basic defense that you're going to be working with in these types of practices. And one thing that's really hard to project about him is, with zone coverages, how can he anticipate the ball? Can he layer the ball consistently in the middle of the field? And you watch him at Tennessee, what he's doing, he's not reading defenses. He's trying to get 1, 2, 3. Like he's trying to go progression wise. And when you're not able to understand the coverage that you're working with, I think that's something to to definitely like understand that, yeah, Joe Milton has a great arm, but we need to be realistic about the type of prospect he is.
What I don't know. I don't do much Joe Milton. I to be totally honest with you, him, Spencer Rattler, kind of sit in that realm of me of just like I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers would consider him if they were around. Spencer Rattler, maybe he's climbing up that board. Milton's not a guy that I think is on the Pittsburgh Steelers radar. I don't think he fits what they're looking for. He's also, I don't know. He just like he doesn't bring anything to me that I say, okay, that guy can push the needle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think that's where they're kind of sitting when it comes to that stuff. Lad McConkey, we're not trading DJ, but
No, we're not.
Lad McConkey.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Lad McConkey is keeping his momentum up. Like he's the type of guy who's just creating consistent separation. He has really good hands. You watch the tape, like, and you're just amazed. And then you look at his production, you're just like, is he really that type of guy? And he really is that type of guy. Like he's that type of guy who can create separation, he can create yards after the catch. He's not gonna like a lot of people compare him to guys like Julian Edelman or Wes Welker, those types of players. Those are all terrible comps. Like this is the type of guy who's going to run like in the 4.4s, probably like
Yeah.
low 4.4s. He'll have ridiculous agility drills, obviously, but I think he's a guy who can play on the outside. I don't think this guy's a slot at all.
No, I'm no, I agree. But I think people have, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I think when people, generalize guys like that, I think a lot of people, if they didn't watch Deontay Johnson's game, would say something like Deontay Johnson would be a good slot receiver because he's such a good route runner. And said, no, he actually wouldn't. He's terrible. I mean, he's not terrible, but I'm not putting him in the slot. I'm not even actually considering putting him in the slot. I'm putting him on the outside to play X because in certain offenses, the Pittsburgh Steelers is a prime example. That X receiver is very specific. It has a very specific role. It does very specific things. And I don't know if that's what Lad McConkey could be, but that's those type of guys that have that crazy agility, that have those smooth route running. That's the type of guy that you'd go with if you were there. Quinton Mitchell and Jackson Powers Johnson both have pretty much certified themselves as first-round picks. Who would you rather go with that 20? Oh, this is a good pick. This is a good question, actually.
I like this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So for me, I mean, I lean towards Jackson Powers Johnson just because I think he's going to be one of the top center grades I give out throughout my time of watching, prospects in general. I've been watching them for a while. I think he has the type of ability that like guys like Tyler Linderbaum did without the size concerns. And I just think when you put that all together, it's like I would rather have that type of guy. Now, if you told me you can get a package like Quinton Mitchell in the first, and then you can get like a Zach Frazier in like the second round, I'd probably hit you up on that offer.
When was the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted a West Virginia guy? Ever? Have they ever drafted a West Virginia guy?
All I remember is back in the day, I remember when they drafted Marcus Wheaton. Before that, a lot of people thought they were going to take Stedman Bailey.
True. Yeah. There you go. But still didn't. I think you'd have to go through the history. I don't know if it would be, but Zach Frazier would be a good one. I think he's a very promising center.
Fits that wide zone scheme of Arthur Smith's, by the way.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going Jackson Powers Johnson as well. I think the cornerback class or the defensive back class as a whole is just so good that, like, look at dude to get there's usually, like we talked about this history. There's usually one, maybe two really, really good centers in a draft. There could be a lot of really good corners. Get that really, really good center. Get that dude who just comes in here and he's like, all right, this could be your Creed Humphrey. This could be your Tyler Linderbaum. This could be your whoever. That's who you're looking for. Go get him because that's a position you don't play with. And then you don't have to mess with it. You know what I mean? That's your center. You re-sign centers for life. You don't let him go. Jackson Powers Johnson would be my pick. I love that question, though. I don't know is Mitchell even going to make it to 20?
No, so that's the interesting part. I don't even know if JPJ makes it to 20 because Jacksonville's picking in front of them. They have a huge need at center, but I've heard Trent Baalke speak, and he's always like, yeah, Luke Fortner could be a good player, but the scheme is not helping him. So maybe, it's something like that ends up happening, and then JPJ ends up landing there. Quinion Mitchell, I mean, he's played himself as a first rounder for sure. Where he goes, like, it's pretty tough to say because, like, there's a ton of really good corners fighting for that top of the tier. I would say he's up there with, like, Nate Wiggins in terms of fluidity from his pedal, and I think that's a very valued trait. But I also think guys like Terry and Arnold, that physicality aspect, I think Quinion Mitchell balances like that type of thing really well, and I could see how teams might take him a little bit higher than they might be expecting.
Yeah. Then they're looking for. All right, let's keep it going here. I actually meant to hit on a different one, but we'll go to this one first. Quarterbacks in the draft: Jordan Travis, Sam Hartman, JJ McCaffrey, Michael Pratt. What one are you taking out of those ones? What one's the most realistic pick for the Steelers? Let's ask that question. Because I think your answer would be Pratt, if I had to guess.
I mean, it's interesting because I watched a good bit of Jordan Travis. I'd say as a day 3 type guy, I think he's actually kind of underrated. There are a little bit of Brock Purdy similarities in terms of what he can offer there. Just very good creator in and out of the pocket, anticipates in the middle of the field extremely well, can layer the ball. He's good in that regard. Like I could see that, but he's also limited in his arm strength and everything else. So, you have to ask yourself, what's the ceiling there? And there isn't. It's just a matter of if he starts and he just plays really well, you go with a guy like that. And sometimes that's just what happens. Guys just luck into their opportunities. Michael Pratt, I mean, I probably lean towards him more than all of these options, but
yes,
it's probably because he has the best mix of you're addressing the quarterback position, but you're also not trying to swing for the fences. Now, McCarthy fits the Arthur Smith offense.
I was going to say, dude, I think my most realistic pick might be McCarthy, but in the second round. He'd have to make it to the second round.
I don't think that's going to happen because
I don't either.
I think when he gets to the interviews and stuff like that, he's going to really impress teams with his recall ability, but also just how psychotic he is about football. Like he is almost psychopathic, like in terms of how much he loves football. I was listening to the Athletic Football Show podcast with Nate Tyson, Dane Brugler while I was doing some scouting work, and I heard them talk about McCarthy and like how like when he was at Michigan, when he walked in, he was like, "All right, guys, if you're here to party and get all the girls in the world, I need you all to leave the locker room because I'm here to freaking win."
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's what I'm saying. He walks in there. I think Tomlin. He's like, oh, that's our guy. That's a Pittsburgh Steeler right there. That's what they're looking at as he's leaving the room. To follow up on that one, you think Mason Rudolph leaves in free agency?
I don't really know where he'd go, honestly. I mean, I think he's played well in his opportunity, but I think Pittsburgh has given him the most opportunity by far, and I think he'd want to stay with it. I don't know why he'd want to go anywhere else. Maybe he gets like just a bigger contract than they're willing to offer. But I mean, from how it sounded when Rooney spoke, it sounds like they want to keep Rudolph to go with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
and they want to kind of challenge each other. I
agree.
I'm a little.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I think if we're going to be honest, I think Mason Rudolph was the best quarterback on that roster all season long. I think it was clear as day that he was the best quarterback on that roster all season long. If you just sat around and watched practice for a little while, I think if he gets one offer somewhere that pays a little bit more than the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's gone. But I don't know if he's going to get that offer. I don't know how the quarterback market is. I think the quarterback draft, those guys not playing very well in Mobile, gets him at a good start. That's a good place for him to be right now. But I don't know. I would say right now it's very up in the air. 50-50 shot that he comes back. I wouldn't be leaning one way or another. I don't think he prefers to come back if he gets a better opportunity somewhere. It's just about, is he going to get that better opportunity somewhere? I'm not totally sure. What a name here. What's that? 19 Amos, I think it's 0. What are we talking? The 2000 draft? I think I was like 3 years old when this guy entered the NFL. He was from West Virginia, though.
Amos Zare. I'm looking this up right now because I am very.
Yeah, I think he is from West Virginia. This is like 2000, 2001, maybe early 2000s. This guy was in the NFL.
Man, that is
What a call, dude, by Capricorn Steel.
dude, that's crazy. That was a long time ago.
Crazy. Had to be the 2000, I want to say. 2001. I don't know. A while
Uh,
ago.
yeah.
All right. Cam Hart is what Cam Sutton should have been. O-line is definitely the first two picks, especially with how run heavy, blah, blah, blah. Cam Hart, you were talking about him yesterday. An option for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say, yes. Is Cam Sutton your, ceiling? Is that what you're looking for? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe
I
not.
don't I don't really see him as a comparable to Sutton in terms because they're really different in terms of how they're built. They play with different play styles. I'd say Hart is one of those like toolsy guys that you'll see go around like third, fourth round range that teams will want to bet on, want to mold, and he'll. I see.
Talking about Amos. Appreciate you.
Yes, appreciate you. But when it comes to, what I think with Cam Hart, I think he still needs to refine his technical aspects. He might be a guy who's better on his second contract. After a while, it could be one of those Rasul Douglas type players down the line where he doesn't figure it out with his first team, but he might figure it out with the second team. He still needs to refine quite a bit, and I don't really see like an instant contributor there. So
is Van Pran, I don't know who this is, still a target for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I'd say he's a target. I mean, right now, where I think he goes, I'd say like third round, most likely. Van Pran's a very long decorated starter.
The guy from Georgia. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, I liked him quite a bit coming into the year, but he's slowly his flaws have started to become a little bit more apparent to me as I've watched the other guys because he's solid at what he does. Like, I think he actually really could have used this week at the Senior Bowl because if he had come here and he had really just played extremely well, he would have kept himself firmly in like the second round range. But he's kind of
I didn't understand why he didn't show up here. He was one of the guys that kind of surprised me because he's not a bona fide top pick. He's actually, I think, falling as the draft process goes on, where this is easy. Like the Senior Bowl is the easiest outside of the combine, I guess, is the easiest like opportunity you have to raise your draft stock. This is where guys really climb and really climb quickly. Why would you not, you know what I mean? Like, why would you not show up here? That was an interesting one for me. I'd say yes, depending. I hope they go higher than that. Like, you got to get a center in the first two rounds. I don't think he'll be a top 2 pick.
I think right now I'm stuck just between JPJ and Zach Frazier.
Yeah,
I think those are the guys I'd be the most like happy with. I still got to watch Graham Barton. I haven't watched his center tape. I've only seen his tackle tape.
Yeah, I agree. Oregon State tackle. I don't know. That's a you question.
Talis Fuaga. Yeah. He had a terrific day today. He's been great through 2 days. I'd say him and Jackson Powers Johnson have really cemented themselves as like the top, offensive lineman there. Everyone sees the potential of like a Tyler Guyton, but Fuaga is one of those guys who's getting pegged as a guard when he should not be. He has an anchor. He has good hands. He can explode out of his set. I really just don't understand why people are trying to make him go inside. It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, Fuaga, he's probably somewhere in that top 10 to 20 range is where I could see him going. So he could slip. He could potentially, go higher. It's hard to say, but he's in that range. He's a guy, keep it in your mocks if you're looking for a tackle. But I'd say right now he's like behind Fatanu for me from Washington. So he's about like offensive tackle 4.
All right. OT4. I like that. What NFL quarterback? I'm not a comparison guy. I know you're not a huge comparison guy, but what guy would you compare Michael Pratt to? This is a good question, actually.
I've been trying to find a comp for him. It's been kind of hard for him because he takes so many big hits. And I was thinking to myself, who was a quarterback who just took so many unnecessary hits in his career? for better or for worse. And then I came back to Sam Bradford from his time with the Rams,
Oh.
and
Oh.
it's funny with Bradford because I really think he could have been something actually really good if he hadn't gone into such a terrible situation. His
Yeah.
best receiver was Kenny Britt when he was with the when he was with the Rams. It was Jared Cook. It was those guys. He was throwing to guys like Brandon Gibson and Tavon Austin. Like it was rough. And
Yeah,
I
the
could
end
see
of Tavon Austin too. Let's remember that one. That was not the beginning of Tavon Austin. That was Tavon Austin's like second, third stint of okay, maybe Tavon Austin's all right. No, he's not. No, he's not.
Yeah, it was a bit rough, but Pratt, I could see him being kind of in that same mold because they both layer the ball really well at the second window. They have deep ball capabilities, but they are also just strong in the pocket. They take those hits for better or for worse. Could lead to injuries down the line. I could see Pratt having similar type career, and maybe it leads to maybe too many picks as well. Like he has to learn how to balance the whole aggression versus taking what the defense gives him.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing. I think it is a bad thing, but dude, right now the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at a quarterback, the starting quarterback that they want to be a franchise quarterback who is afraid to turn the ball over. And
Yeah,
to be quite honest with you, turn the ball over, throw the pass that might get picked off because if it doesn't, it could be something big. And sometimes you got to take that shot. And that's what Mason Rudolph's a lot better at. But I agree, you don't want that in a rookie. That is why he is a bit down, I think, on people's draft boards, which is okay. And that's what I think. Like if you draft a guy like that, he's not coming in to be an immediate starter, which gives him the allowance to say, okay, let's mold this guy. Let's calm him down a little bit. I think it's I don't have a comparison here, and I'm not trying to compare these two, but Sam Howell is a very aggressive guy who needed more time to develop and didn't get that time to develop. And now you're seeing what's happening. I think Pratt could be in that same boat where if he gets in the right situation, things could happen and things could go well for him. That's what he's looking for. Should the Steelers draft Miami safety Cam Kitchens? I don't know what round. What would Cam Kitchens be? Is he a first rounder?
Cam Kitchens is a popular mock draft target in like the first round, early second round.
I was gonna say
Problem
I don't know if he's climbed his way, solidified there. 20's a bit high, I would say.
Not just that, in terms of Cam Kitchens, he's that guy who plays more single high. He's rangy on the back end. I really don't want Minka playing up front again. That's not his best that's not where his best skills end up showing themselves. Can he play slot corner? Can he play in the box? Yes,
Mhm.
he can. But where does he make his money? It's reading the quarterback from that single high look, being able to identify the defense and make those last second plays like he did, years ago, just stopping the Ravens, like making those adjustments. Like he's a quarterback of the defense. He needs to be able to see from back there. He doesn't
Yeah.
need to be up in the box.
Yeah.
That drove me insane this year.
No, I agree. And they push for it so hard. I hope that ends. But at the same time, they push for it because their only other options were DeMonte KZ, who you're not putting DeMonte KZ in the box. The guy's 3 feet tall, 175 pounds. And I like DeMonte KZ. I think he's a good number 3. When he's your number 2, you're very limited. And then you brought in to replace him Trenton Thompson, excuse me, Eric Rowe, same exact player. Like those are the box guys. Those are you're not looking for it. I agree. I would like the Pittsburgh Steelers to find, I don't know. I don't know what a better Keanu Neal would be, but that type of player, that type of, not a Keanu Neal, but that type of guy, a guy who could be the run support. A Terrell Edmonds. I'd like the Steelers to go find a Terrell Edmonds. That would be great.
I talked to a safety the other today, and his name is Malik Mustafa from Wake Forest. And he's a guy I actually think could fit really well with what Pittsburgh wants to do because he plays all over the place. He plays slot corner, plays in the box, plays deep. He's got good range on the back end, but he's also just explosive. He's explosive, can tackle really well, and he's built like a brick shit house. Let me tell you, man. Like he's got, like those guys where like they have a long neck and you can see them, and they have no neck. Yeah, he's got that taquito spikes like neck. We gotta
That's
run that
twice
back.
we brought up Takeo Spikes in 2 podcasts back to back. I haven't talked about that guy in 15 years, and we've mentioned him twice in 2 days. That's good. That's incredible. All right, what wide receivers? We're gonna close out here in a couple minutes, but what wide receivers do you think will be there in the 4th round? And would you take one with those 2 picks? Wow, very specific question, but I like it.
So wide receiver is an interesting argument in terms of how they should explore it. I would say they want to look at like the bigger like slot types that can block. There's a guy from Texas. I'm really sad he wasn't here at the Senior Bowl because he is one of the best character guys in this class. Jordan Whittington, the wide receiver 3 on Texas. He's a guy who makes so many effort plays, makes so many blocking like effort plays. Like he's got all that, but he's also a pretty decent athlete to go with it as well. And I think that's the type of guy you take him in the 4th round. That'd be a really terrific pairing, especially when you have like potential speed threat like Calvin Austin to go with that. I think that builds a pretty solid room. Now, could they go out in free agency, maybe sign Juwan Jennings? Of course. It would make a ton of sense because they want to try and have that ability in 11 personnel to just be able to send their receiver in motion, get those like effective blocks out of them. Like,
yeah,
they definitely need that.
They 100% need that. Do you know how many times the Pittsburgh Steelers sent Miles Boykin onto the field and everybody went, I wonder what they're going to do here? You know, like you desperately need somebody who you could disguise that scheme with. And don't get me wrong, half of that was Matt Canada's offense only having one option to do that. But man, dude, desperately. What do you guys think of UFC wide receiver Javon Baker? Your thoughts? Is he down there?
So Javon Baker, I don't think he's a fit for Pittsburgh in terms of what they're looking for. Baker, to me, though, he is one of my favorite receivers to watch on tape. He's a former like high recruit that was with Alabama. He had some pretty decent tape, but he just lacked opportunity. So he transfers, goes to UCF, gets his opportunity. He's a guy I think has a way more complete game than people are getting credit. He's that type of guy who can create separation. He's just really twitched up. Like he almost looks like Deontay Johnson, the way he can string moves together. And then he transitions after the catch. Like he's very smooth at that. And when you run him on a vertical plane on those 2-way goes, he's a threat to catch the ball, like pluck the ball out of the air. He's actually got some really solid hands, body control. I saw him have like a catch over the shoulder on day 1 where he barely got both of his feet in bounds versus Cam Hart on a deep pass from Michael Penix. And that's the type of player you'd be getting. You'd be getting that potential like high-end wide receiver too. I think he's a day 2 guy all the way. Could he go?
But not a fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who is your I feel like this is a very broad question, but of all the wide receivers down there right now, who have you watched and said that's a Steeler?
Ricky Pearsall. It's Ricky Pearsall because he knows how to block. He fits well in the slot. He can catch those like really tough placement catches, like where he has to go and contort his body all the way around. And I think that's something, Pittsburgh would want.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they want just a pure yak threat. Malachi Corley could fit into that mold, but Pearsall, give me him because of the blocking threat.
Nick, do you, not Senior Bowl related, but who do you think will put on the biggest show at the Combine? Oh, this is a good question for you.
I have a few answers for this one, but I'm going to give you one of my favorite running backs in this year's class, Jalen Wright out of Tennessee. He's a guy who I think could run like in potentially the 4.2s. That's how fast he is. He's been clocked like over 23 miles an hour on the GPS in practice. He's been clocked in the high 22s in games. And you look at a guy like that, like I look at like what Jahmyr Gibbs was last year.
Yeah.
And it's funny with Jalen Wright because he's like 10 pounds heavier than he was. And I'm really curious to see how
running 23 miles an hour, 10 pounds heavier than Jahmyr Gibbs. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Name to watch.
He'll put a show on. He'll also jump out of the gym.
That's insane. That's actually insane. Two more here. Well, one shout out for you. I would link up with Mr. Last Laugh. This dude knows a lot and has had some real good feedback in the comments here. Jalen Ford. You know who he is?
I do know who he is, but I haven't watched him yet, so I can't really recommend or disrecommend him at this stage. So when I get to the tape, I'll answer some questions about him.
I was gonna say I was kind of thinking that you would know, that you would be like, oh yeah, this guy. I've watched him.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
For sure. Definitely some guys I want to get to. Linebacker and corner is probably where I'm the most behind right now in this class. I spent way too much time watching quarterbacks. Like I said, it's in my Twitter bio. I spent way too much time analyzing quarterbacks. And for some reason, I watch too many running backs now. And I don't get it.
That's all right. We've done a lot of podcasts with our boy Derek Bell, and that guy has told me a billion times that he does not like talking about quarterbacks. And I'm like, look at buddy. We're talking about quarterbacks. That's what we're doing. So it's good to be on the other side of that one always. All right, before we head out here, what are you looking for tomorrow? What last day of practice. So what's your big, man, I really hope this happens. I really need to see this. And, lastly, this guy's got to put on a show. He's got one last day to kind of solidify himself.
Oh, they could put Joe Milton a throw off and let him throw it like 90 yards. Like, that's definitely what I want to see. No, but for real, like, that'd be a fun spectacle to see. But, like, I would just want to see guys finish strong. Like, guys who are putting it together. Maybe some guys who haven't really put it together, just finish the best you can. Leave that lasting impression. Like, that's more of what I want to see. Don't rest your laurels on the first day or the second day. Just keep continuing to fight and battle.
I like it. How did Michael Penix look today? We didn't talk about that one.
I would say Penix was a little bit better, but he still had his accuracy sprays that I still think he needs to improve on. It's weird because he was actually checking the ball down more, and I thought his placement was fine on those overall, but he's more of a vertical type passer. Yeah. And I just want to see him attack the middle of the field. It's something that's not really on his tape, and he can layer the ball pretty well. It's just he doesn't always have the best control over his passes.
That's the guy. If you ask me tomorrow when we jump on here, what do I want to hear? I want to hear that Michael Penix had a day. I'm a big Michael Penix guy. Been a big Michael Penix guy. Not even for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but just in general, like that dude. So
he's an awesome guy.
Yeah, I'm hoping. With that, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another live stream with Boots on the Ground with our boy Nick Martin down in Mobile, Alabama. We will be back tomorrow to recap the final day of Senior Bowl practice in 2024. Enjoy another beautiful night in the Berg. Peace.